Alright, hi there everyone. It's Fam here again for MTGOntario, and this time we're just staring at a constructed deck. Mainly because this is going to be an update on what's been going on the last month, and no, I wasn't dead. I was just a little preoccupied with some things. And at the end of this video, I'll go over some constructed decks, and I'll explain why as I go along. So, the reason why I wanted to do just like a video looking at some decks is just because this way I don't feel like rushed by any timers that has to do with like a draft video. So that way I can sort of take my time and not be rushed while I'm talking. So yeah, like I just want to let everyone know that I've been okay. I haven't fallen off the face of the earth. Over the last couple of months, sorry, over the last month, I've been pretty much just occupied with things like job hunting and filling in application forms, sending in resumes, cover letters here and there. I mean, I've graduated earlier this year, and I'm just looking for work and just waiting for replies. Sitting around doing nothing, pretty much. I mean, not really doing nothing, but I've been at home. Haven't really gone out that much, and I haven't really had time to go online as much. I've pretty much been planning my European trip nonstop. Um, and originally I was thinking of going to Paris and then to like all the other European Grand Prix, and it looks like my plans have to be cut short a little bit. Like my family in France apparently have some awkward circumstances, and it's only that my cousin that lives in Paris. The rest of my family live in other parts of France that are much further away and a little inconvenient. And my cousin's flat apparently is not well equipped to suit me, or to let me stay there, because apparently there's barely any room on the floor even if I wanted to crash there, because it's really really small. So I didn't want to burden her for however long I might have been staying there. So as a result, I had to find my own accommodations and I had to adjust my plans. So now my plans have changed a little bit. I'm still going to stay in Europe for a while after the PT and the Grand Prix in Paris. I'm planning just to stay there until the end of March, however. So, I finally summarized my flight details, and I was waiting on a friend of mine, a couple of friends of mine who were planning on going to the Pro Tour as well. One is qualified, one is not, but they were both planning on going regardless. Samuel Thamaratnam, who qualified through Grand Prix Toronto, coming 11th, I believe, is also going to Paris. And Drew Boulet, who is not yet qualified for the Pro Tour, was also planning on going, just because I think during that time it overlapped well with his vacation time. So, vacation in Paris and going to a Grand Prix sounds pretty good, right? So I was waiting on Sammy T to help coordinate my flight details, since the travel bureau over at Hasbro were pretty much generous enough to give me any flight I wanted. So to accommodate Sammy, we get the cheapest flight possible, which was British Airways, with one stop over in London. And Sammy just finished booking his flight yesterday, and I got the details from him. And then I just confirmed my flight bookings at the same time, and the itinerary works out so that we're on the same outgoing flight. And he's coming back earlier than I am, obviously, because I'm going to stay there for 2 months, and he's only there for about a week. It looks like Drew was wanting to go as well, but something has come up, and he may or may not be able to make it. Hopefully, he works that all out, and we'll be able to room with him in Paris. So, not really sure what's going on there, but for right now, it looks like Sammy and I are a go. Otherwise, my plans for after Europe, well, from the beginning, my plans are to be in Paris from February 7th. Sammy will be going home on the 14th, but I'm going to stay until March 31st. And I was planning on heading out to GP Hamburg, which is the second week of March, I believe. The week after that, there's also GP Kobe, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to go to, and then GP Barcelona. Some of you might think like, oh well, why would you want to take a trip to Europe and then travel around Europe, but then halfway through cut to Japan and come back? As some of you might already know, I used to live in Japan as I went to school there for a couple of years, and I have a lot of friends there, and that's probably the biggest reason why I want to come back outside of the GP. I want to see my friends and just meet up with them again, and it's just a big excuse to go travel. Conveniently for me, when I went to school, my school was located right in between Osaka and Kobe. And just to give you a kind of perspective for those of you who aren't familiar with Japanese geography, um, Kobe is about 40 minutes away by train, by local train from Osaka, and they're two really big cities within really close distances to each other. And it's really convenient to get around Japan. It's really easy to go from one place to another. So even though I might be flying into Osaka and staying there, it'd be very easy for me to get to the GP. So definitely want to be covering that. I mean, I'm about 80% sure I'm gonna go. I mean, it's unless something happens with my finances and I'm like I might be going bankrupt by the time I'm in Europe, but hopefully that doesn't happen and I should be at those GPs. Yeah, and it's apparently really cheap to fly into Germany and to Spain from France, so I'll be doing that for sure. So you guys can watch for me there. Anyways, why are we looking at like a constructed deck right now? Because in the last couple of months I haven't really been drafting that much online. I'm just kind of playing around with constructed and testing for the Pro Tour. And some of you might say, well, what's the point of testing constructed right now since another set's going to come out right before the Pro Tour and you know the whole format's going to change? And to those people I say, well, yes, another set's going to come out, but I don't think it's going to change the format so drastically like many of you think it will. I mean, you look at it this way, it's the second set of a block, so it's going to be smaller than the first set, I believe. And I mean, there are going to be some key cards for sure, and it may or may not improve certain decks. It might even create like whole other archetypes. It may even, you know, imbalance certain decks or skew the format in a certain way, but I don't think that certain decks that exist now will be completely erased. I mean, familiarizing yourself with the current format will just give you a little bit of an advantage for those who aren't familiar with it now, so that you can adjust for the format quickly as like the new cards come in, so that you can make the appropriate changes and understand it faster. Because those who are going in with no preparation with the current standard format will probably be a lot worse off than those who currently play standard right now, because you can understand how the format was and how it will be changing and why and what key things to look out for. At the same time, like I was just looking at what types of deck I would think about playing, and the first thing that I thought about is like what would most pros want to be playing when they're coming into this sort of event. And the first thing that comes to mind is control, obviously. The one card that a lot of players love and a lot of players want to be playing with is Jace the Mind Sculptor. And not that I have anything against that, and not that I dislike play control. Control is one of my favorite things to play outside of like combo actually, but I don't want to go into a tournament and be battling Jace the Mind Sculptor all day. Like I play Jace, you play Jace to kill my Jace, and then just like the whole day is about trying to stick a Jace, right? And then your game's control and control matchups become really long, drawn out, mind-numbing games where you feel really exhausted and stressed out after the game, whether or not you've won or lost. It doesn't really help you for the rest of the day because it just drains so much energy from you, because how much endurance is involved in playing those sort of matchups. So that being said, I'm looking towards more of a mid-range to early, fast, aggressive decks, to sort of give me that advantage. That I don't have to really, not that I don't really want to think, but I don't have to sort of play a deck where if I make one small slip up, it will cost me the entire game or match, and I don't want to have that looming over my head, and it might tilt me for the rest of the day. I don't want to have that sort of element that could cause stress. So as a result, I've chosen a deck like I've chosen to play test through various different types of decks, and those who've known me over the last couple of weeks, who've seen me in real life, I've been carrying around a gauntlet of decks, literally like 5 or 6 decks on me at any time, just to play test and understand this format a little bit better. The current deck that I'm looking at right now is the Primeval Titan deck, and it's the Primeval Titan Valakut ramp deck. And the reason why I'm featuring this one is because if I were to compare any of the ramp decks, this deck or the Eldrazi Green ramp deck, I would probably choose this one over the Eldrazi Green, mainly because I haven't had much success with the Eldrazi Green deck, and I found that it's very biphasic because it has way too much ramp because of the fact that it needs to get to like these obscene numbers to get its Eldrazi creatures out. And I actually like as Avenger of Zendikar much more than any of the Eldrazi creatures because first of all it's easier to cast and it gives you a lot more bodies, which is a lot better in my opinion in certain situations than one ginormous creature that could potentially win you the game. Because the multiple bodies can get you out of like really close situations. If you go to really low life and you stick an Eldrazi, if he has more creatures than you, he'll just swing through the Eldrazi and then kill you that after that, right? But if you stick an Avenger Zendikar when you're on like 5 or 6 life, he can't really get through you anymore, and then it's just a matter of time till you build up enough land that all your plant tokens will just be enormous and he'll just die. So otherwise, most of the cards in the deck are the same as the Eldrazi Green deck, and also the fact that you're not relying on Eldrazi cards as much. That way, you can play more basic lands, and you won't get Tectonic edged out of the game so hard, because the control on ramp matchup, I find, even though like the Eldrazi ramp deck is supposedly supposed to be favored against control, I found that I lost a lot of games because they Tectonics edged away all my Eldrazi lands because I kept drawing them earlier in the game, and you can't really help that, right? Because you are running 5 of them, and like even if you don't play Titan, you will draw them at some point, and then if they just edge you out of the game, you just can't really build up enough mana to get to your Eldrazi's, right? The other reason is because not playing mono green allows you to have like a little bit more variance in your deck, and I like the fact playing red will give you like lightning bolts, pyroclasms, and whatnot, just as a way to combat like early aggressive decks. The deck you're looking at right now is the deck list that I got from Sammy T, who won Ontario Champs with, and I think mostly every card here, if not, yeah, I think every card here is exactly the same. It features one Swamp for Memoricide on the sideboard, which I think is really key. Memoricide helps take care of a lot of problem matchups. And in the mirror match, it's amazing. Just taking out their Primeval Titans is so like devastating. It's just beyond description here. You should be miles ahead if you can stick that on turn 3 or turn 4, and then just stick your own Titan, and then it's pretty much game over. Pretty much straightforward. The one card here to note is like I play 4 Growth Spasms. I think this technology came from Kyle Duncan. Mainly because it's the one ramp card by itself that can get you Primeval Titan on turn 4. So if you kept like a hand of like 1 ramp spell and Primeval Titan, that's the one you want there. Otherwise, if you had 2 ramp spells, then you were just going to get there naturally anyways. I mean, I think every card's pretty much self-explanatory. It's 4 of everything except for like 1 Wormcoil Engine. And then there's 4 Pyroclasms and 3 Balos in the sideboard to stop early aggro decks, and then Ricochet Traps just to pretty much deal with control decks.